The Sex Ed with Tim podcast is recorded on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands.
You're listening to Sex Ed with Tim.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. I am your host Tim, certified sex educator. I identify as a chaotic homosexual. And hey baby, are you a communist? Because I feel an uprising in my lower class. I don't know how I feel about that one. My listeners give the worst suggestions for pickup lines. Yeah, no, these all suck. They want me to stay single.
Yeah, that was definitely meant to be bad. Good. Like, you sound educated, but not fuckable. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference.
Can I be both? Educated and fuckable?
You can. You just gotta tinker. You gotta get a little, I don't know, Marxism in there. Drop a little, what's the sexy version of communism?
What is the sexy version of communism? It's definitely not
some
capitalism.
people like a Stalin in the bedroom.
Stalin in the sheets, Dostoevsky in the streets.
That's funny. That's pretty good. That's more fuckable. You're up 20%. You're climbing.
Yes, finally. Hopefully, I'm not single by the end of the year. Jesus Christ, folks, we got a very funny comedian here on the show. He's a comedian, producer, director, overall pleasurable guy from what I've seen on YouTube and the internets. He looks like every guy I fucked in West Hollywood, and they all decided to start a brewery. Welcome to the show, Justin Herman.
Thank you for saying brewery and not dispensary. Somehow that's less emasculating, so I appreciate it. I'm in.
Is a dispensary more emasculating?
No, it doesn't really matter. It's actually an age thing. I have more maturity as a brewery. Dispensary is like 23-year-olds, but breweries, that's like a 35 plus. That's my bracket.
Fair. Okay. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
I'm good, Tim. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Are we recording video too, or is this just an audio podcast? I should have asked you this.
Do you think I have enough money for video, girl?
So
I am broke.
So I'm wearing these nipple clips for nothing, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay,
yeah, like your 4 nipples are out for the audience, but it's just for me. I'll have to describe
Fun fact,
it.
2 of those are moles.
Oh, okay. I hope none of them are cancerous. Oh, cross fingers. Okay.
It's a fingers crossed emoji. Yep.
I do love that one bit that you do in your stand-up routine about your moles, though. About like how there's no need for tattoos or something like that. How does it go again?
Yeah, it's I don't have any tattoos because I was blessed with nature's tattoo. I'm covered in moles, but they're gross. They protrude. It's like Braille. I'm serious. If you're blind and you run your hand across my back, you'd be like, "Oh, garbanzo bean." It's a very weird. Very weird joke.
I wonder what it would say to to someone blind and they just ran their fingers across your body.
I've brainstormed it endlessly for comedic purpose.
I wonder what it would say. Like, in therapy, perpetually depressed. I'm projecting onto you. I have moles and scars, so that's probably what I'm thinking it would show on my body.
You're not far off.
No?
You're not far off. You're doing great.
Okay, great. Yeah. Speaking of depressed, there's also that one bit that you say about like koalas, and I relate.
Well, they sleep for like 20 hours a day. How is that not depression?
That's so true. What about like sloths? Is that like the same?
They walk like they just got dumped, for sure.
I am gonna change my gender marker from human to sloth or koala. Just always sad, pissing on myself because I'm too slow, incontinent. Oh my god. So the
Koala
reason,
diapers, new business.
yeah,
Hit me.
koala
Go ahead.
diapers. You know
Moving
what?
on.
You know what? That's a good idea. We'll trademark that. We'll
Great.
park that for the next episode. But the
Season
reason I
two.
wanted to
Season
have
four.
you on is because, well, for one thing, I love shooting the shit with comedians. I feel like we're a funny bunch of people who are all trying to get through our trauma, and we use humor to deflect because what's better than therapy? Just ignoring it altogether. Uh, and also, you have like this thing on Netflix that you did all about marriage, sex, and dating, and I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was one of the most interesting things. The most interesting thing that happened to me during the pandemic is I got to direct and produce episodes of a Netflix documentary series called "The Future of." Unfortunately, we didn't. They didn't end up airing every episode that we shot. So there's an episode. The series is out. You can watch it. It's super fun. It's a little pop culture-y. It's. I was hoping it was going to be a deeper dive research-wise. That's how we started. And it's Netflix. They're trying to get the most clicks. So I think they softened the intense research side of the show a little bit, much to my dismay. That was what was the most interesting to me. But anyways, the episode of Sex never aired, but it was one of the best series of conversations I got to have in my life. I got to speak to sex educators around the world. I got to speak to futurists around the world about the development of technology and its role in sex in the future. Um, and it's obviously when you talk about the future, you're speculating. Like some of the greatest minds in the futurist space will tell you anybody that tells you they can predict the future more than 30 years out is lying to you. That's where science fiction starts. But the smart ones understand 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because they understand the rate of change. And so getting to speak about it both technologically and then bringing it back down to this just truly fundamental element of humanity, which is sex, was very cool. And I think I think it's a worthwhile thing to talk about because of how far we've come in the very, very recent history, the very
How
recent
far we've
past.
come. Hmm.
hmm I'm talking like inches farther. What you do is you put
Yards.
your thumb over the top, and it's like a hose. It's oh, sorry, no, the documentary, right? That's a different video I'm making. The old www.only. I'm just kidding. I But like the reality is, I forget the rate of change, but in the last like 10 years, like you talk about like the orgasm gap, which is like men having an orgasm versus women in sex. It's something like 10 years ago, it was 3 to 1, 3 orgasms for the men for one. Now it's 2 to 1, and that is a hyper fast change in the grand scheme of humanity and human sexuality. So I think we're becoming very savvy about sex, and that sex isn't just heteronormative fucking, but it is a much more complex thing, and that it is much more inclusive than it was treated even 40, 50 years ago.
So, how close are we to having a sentient dildo? I would love that.
I mean, sex dolls aren't dolls anymore. I mean, they're full on robots.
So true.
I forget what they call them. I think they call them like grass-fed men in Japan, which are men that no longer have
Grass
sex with women.
fed.
Yeah, I might be making that term up because I love it, but there's like a whole movement in Japan of men that only have sex, like literally are marrying sex robots. It's not widespread, but it is very much a thing because this technology has gotten so good. It has for some people. Now, granted, Japan is a weird culture of patriarchy and technology and changing times, and so this is happening there at a different rate of other places. But the whatever elements of their culture are coming together at this point in time, men are peeling off. Um, so if that's not a sentient dildo, I don't know what is.
So one of the cool things I remember about seeing in Japan was that they had these vending machines and they already had like used panties in them. And I was
Yes.
like, Damn. Where's America in their horniness right now? Like, catch
Honestly,
up.
Japan is this incredible balance of sexually progressive and sexually repressed as hell. I forget what they call them, the maid cafes. Like there are cafes in Japan where you just go and talk to pretty girls dressed up like anime characters, and there's no sex. It's just the attention, but it's got all of like the vibe of sex without any discussion whatsoever or interaction whatsoever.
So like Hooters on
Um,
steroids, really.
it's like one-on-one Hooters with no Hooters. Like
Oh,
they're covered up. It's not flaunted. It's not like a stripper pole. It's a cafe. They've got dessert, actual dessert. Not That's not a stripper name.
please welcome to the stage, caramel cream.
It's pretty good. A whole strip club of just desserts. You could trick
Yeah,
a lot of middle Americans into that place just by accident alone.
honestly, I'm for it. My drag name or my stage name would be Ava Gina, and I would make that store a lot of money. Welcome to the stage, Ava Gina. Just a huge pussy, just walking out.
Perfect.
It's gonna
That's
sell.
my. That's perfect. I love it. My favorite drag name I've ever encountered. I did a comedy show, and there's a bunch of contestants. One of them was this drag queen. Her name was Apple Adams, and that
Apple
wordplay
Adams.
was fucking G. And it's so funny, so clever, such a good name. It was awesome.
That's so good. Yeah,
I'll never
no,
forget
drag
that.
queens are some of the funniest like names out there. I saw a drag
And
queen. Her name
the
was
best.
Sarah Problem.
They're also the best performers on the planet.
Yeah.
Um, I shot these promos years ago for some silly MTV reality show, but I was brought in to make them comedic, and I wrote a bunch of scripts, and we brought in Peppermint. It was like a big Broadway performer, and Peppermint is this incredible drag queen, and just manhandled this reality show cast for comedy. Just did whatever the hell they just took control of the situation. It was so funny and such a professional. I was like, why can't every performer be this? Because they were spectacular.
Yeah, Peppermint's a fucking queen. Like she's so iconic.
Fucking killer.
But
Killer.
uh, if you've ever seen her meme, this moment on YouTube where she just kept burping, she's like, "Is it fashion? It's fashion. It's fashion." Also, you're familiar with. Okay, great. I don't
So
have to
good.
explain it to you.
I took a sip at the wrong time.
Oh, tough shit. See, I never really know how to like converse and make references whenever I talk to, I'm assuming, straight guys. You are one? Okay. So you're the boring one.
um,
Got it.
I,
The
yes, correct. Yes. No, trust me, this isn't by choice. I work in entertainment. I'm desperate for any ounce of diversity. Nobody counts Jew anymore. So what else I got? I would kill. I like to say that I'm heteroflexible because it doesn't mean anything, but it sounds more progressive. Uh,
just a little bit woke, like one eye is open,
yeah.
you know?
I'm willing to lean into the Kinsey scale. You know what I mean? Um,
When did you find out you were straight, huh, Justin?
honestly, like 3 years ago, it took me a long time. I never believed it.
Really?
You spend
I don't
most
know
of
if
your
you're
life
being
trying to be
serious.
convinced. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my
Um,
god, 3 years. That's a. I mean, happy
I'd
for your
like to
journey,
see.
right?
Thank you. I'd like to see more stories like that. There's everyone's story about coming out as gay, but where are the stories about coming out as straight? Like, why aren't people just
Yeah,
like, finally accepting? Because I wasn't sure. I had no idea.
yeah.
Especially because most of my life, my post-pubescent life, I've had gay friends who've loved trying to convince me that I'm playing on the wrong team, and that's fun and fine. But I was always straight, but who fucking knows? And like, why not ask the question over and over again? And eventually, like, I have to stop asking this question. I am very much attracted to women.
Yeah, despite your very gay hairstyle, though,
Thank you so much. My stylist is a lesbian, and I just say I'll have what you're having every time. And
well, you're a very handsome lesbian, Justin. Very
thank you. That's the
handsome
nicest, nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
handsome lesbian. Oh my god. No, I mean, that's so cool. Like, we totally need more straight stories, right? No.
Why doesn't anybody want this, Tim? I don't understand.
I don't know. Straight people need more representation in the media. Come on.
Guys, here's the pitch. It's When Harry Met Sally, but it's the same. No? Nobody wants that? Great.
Here's the story. It's Adam and Eve, just keeping it real, just like how it was originally written. That's it. Not Adam and Steve. Nothing. Just Adam and Eve. That's it.
Yep.
Oh my god. So, like, talk to me about, like, what it was like growing up, like, figuring out your sexuality, like, any funny dates that you went on, anything that comes to mind.
Oh man, I don't know. I was a slow. Listen, America is a puritanical society, right? Like, we literally come from Puritans. Those are the people that rammed those boats into our shore and then killed all the natives, right? Those were the Puritans seeking religious freedom from an island country that didn't like that they were extremists, as far as I would consider it, religiously speaking. So, like, we have this interesting culture, which is why I think the future of sex was such an interesting discussion for me, because I think even if you didn't grow up particularly religious, the sentiment and even how we're educated is very puritanical. It's not, we don't have, I don't know. I grew up in upstate New York is where I went to elementary school, middle school, high school. And when I went to sex ed, there was no sex in sex ed. They just showed us two videos. One video is about the penis and what it does, and the other video was about the vagina. And end of class, like the two protagonists never shared the screen together. Like, that's insane. That isn't. I look back on that, and that's insane. I learned nothing. We just separated the genders to start the class. I'm not an expert in sex, but I'm pretty sure they're going in the wrong direction there. Like, none of this was like an educational thing. It was like this weird, kind of just very conservative approach to sex. So I didn't grow up with puritanical parents per se, but I grew up unsure of all of these feelings. There was no open dialogue in the world and community I grew up in. So I was very much a late bloomer, I think, to figuring out sex for me. Like, I didn't end up having sex, and I didn't lose my virginity until I was 21 years old.
That's
not in high school. I was like
abnormal.
No, but it was like almost a choice out of not like in high school I was convinced that I wasn't ready. I'm doing air quotes for the listeners, but that wasn't based on anything other than what I was like kind of told by society. Whatever trickled down to me is like, well, if you're uncomfortable, maybe you're not ready, which is a really stupid lesson. If you're uncomfortable, maybe talk to somebody that knows more than you. Speak to your parents. Speak to educators. Like, the fact that we don't have any, source of dialogue for any of this stuff when I was a kid is crazy to me. Like, when I was in college, I discovered Dan Savage, who I got to interview for this documentary series, which was a personal highlight in my life. Absolutely brilliant. But I discovered his stuff in college, and I turned 40 next month. That's the age that we're talking about. So almost 20 years ago, I came across Dan Savage, and he was a game changer because he had conversations about sex in a way that I'd never seen before. I never heard before. So I was a late bloom. Like, I turned down sex in high school, the opportunity for sex, because I was basically just scared and convinced that I wasn't ready. I know it's
so precious.
This is why it's pathetic. It's fine. It's I don't look back at it and I'm like, oh, what a cute kid. I'm like, what a fucking little bitch.
Loser,
no, like, it's like,
bitch, pussy.
I know. I've become my own high school bully 20 years later.
Bullying works.
But these were the real sentiments I reflect on. So I was a late bloomer in terms of figuring out what I like with sex, figuring out everything about it, just sex, just exploring sex, understanding sex, understanding relationships with women. It developed slowly for me because my parents went through a terrible divorce, which scared me off of relationships, and then I went through this long phase of like trying to figure out what the significance of sex for myself before I got involved in it. I've always been a respectful person to other people, so it's not like I was a frat boy that was gonna be like, "Yo, give me some fucking pussy, bro." Like I wasn't. I was
Yeah,
never gonna be
titties,
my approach to
man.
sex.
Blah. It's my impression of a straight man. The peace sign.
It was
on
very
your,
good.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, great. I can blend in.
Yeah.
Peace sign on the lips.
You
tongue
can join any Penn State frat you want. You're ready. Mm-hmm.
I'm actually part of Brigham Young University. That's my school of choice.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't know if you know about.
I can see where this podcast came from.
I don't know if you know about this thing. At BYU, they have this thing called like the Virgin Club. So stupid. I'm not even kidding.
Yes.
There's this thing at Brigham Young. I don't even know if it's real or not. It feels like a satire thing, but like they promote virginity and they try to destroy things like loopholes and shit, like the poop hole loophole where you stay a virgin through anal sex, which like I mean,
oh my god,
good for you, I guess.
that's yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I used to do I've toured around Europe a lot for stand up, and I used to do a lot of jokes about how like their education system. How much I'm jealous. My tours in Europe are always called seeking asylum. I'm literally hoping to get adopted, and so
Fair.
a lot of my premises are like here's why you don't understand why it's so much like your education system is real. And I would do jokes about sex education, and then I went to Ireland and I did the same jokes, and I was like, you guys know your sex education. I think the way I was setting it up was like, your education systems are amazing, your sex education is real. And I think that was the line. And I did that in Ireland. Some guy was like, not correct. And I was like, oh, really? Is that true? And then because they're such a Catholic country, yeah, they are butt fucking the shit out of each other because that's how they're raised. It's the Brigham Young style of maintain your virginity. I may be over-exaggerating the extent of anal sex and the intensity of it per my rhetoric, but you get the point. It's the similar thing.
I'll let you know when it's too deep or too painful, Justin. Trust me, anal is not. It's definitely not child's play, but yeah, it's messy business. That's what I specialize in, making sure y'all stay clean. Hope you're all listening to this. This episode has been brought to you by your local douche store, Fleet. I don't know, wherever you're listening.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Yes.
Hey, you sick motherfuckers! I've got a special treat for you. Need a new toy to spice up your sex life? Head over to loveshop.ca/sexedwithtim and get yourself a cock ring, a dildo, a vibrator, or even a life-sized sex doll. Damn, I guess love really does come in all shapes and sizes. Get 15% off your entire order when you use code SEXEDWITHTIM at checkout. They're shipping to all of Canada and the United States because North America is horny. That's loveshop.ca/sexedwithtim and use code SEXEDWITHTIM for 15% off your entire purchase. Happy orgasm! Do you like feeling sexy and looking sexy? Of course you do. Only my listeners are sexy as fuck. I have partnered with fetishwear designer Dale Kuda to bring you the hottest deals on custom jock straps, harnesses, hats, and more. Head over to dalekuda.com, that's DALEKUDA.com, and use code SEXEDWITHTIM at checkout for 25% off the entire store. Yeah, you heard me. 25% off. And cherry on top, free shipping. Oh my god. I have a few of the stuff that he has made for me, and Girl, I'm wearing it right now. I'm wearing like a little jock strap so that I could easily just like slip a little butt plug or dildo every now and then here and there. And I'm on the train. I'm just like, thank you, Dale. That's DaleCuda.com with the code SEXEDWithTim for 25% off your entire purchase with free shipping. With a deal like that, I swear I could come buckets, honey.
The show is about to begin.
Yes.
Jeez, that's so interesting to hear because, like, I would have imagined New York to be very progressive in terms of their sex education because, you know, it's very, like, queer-centric and you're all, like, this very specific brand of kindness. So it's very, like, what I mean by kind is, like, I landed in JFK and I was riding the A train from Howard Beach all the way to Fulton, and then there was this girl that was like coughing, and like by the time this other lady got off, she just got a whole bunch of tissue, threw it at her face, and said, "Stop it!" And I was like, I mean, makes
Yes,
that's great.
Perfect
that's
example.
Like
Perfect
New York,
example.
New York kindness. That's so cool. So, you know, like a place like New York being that kind of like tough love, that like queer, I would have thought that they would have had better sex education, but I guess not.
So this is upstate New York. So you got to remember, half of New York State is full on Trump country. You know, New York State is actually a relatively conservative state. It's the city, obviously. The cities are obviously like all the country. The cities are where the us's live, and the progressive liberal thinkers, and then the more rural. New York State has a lot of rural land, a lot of land in general. And I didn't grow up in a particularly conservative place, but compared to New York, it was on the fence. And compared to New York City. So, and this is also the 80s and 90s. Again, I have to imagine these curriculums have been updated. Maybe they're not using VHS tapes anymore. I don't know. I would hope so. But it is, yeah, it's crazy. You know, it's like it shocks me to this day that was the education. You know, and it's these places like Brigham Young and these Catholic countries and Catholic communities, like talking about virginity is this conversation. Virginity is a social construct. Like virginity is not a real major thing. Yeah, it's a puritanical and it could be a very harmful conversation, which is how it impacted me. I think it really stunted my development as a man and as a sexual person. And you know, this, what's her name, Shan Boodram, I don't know if you know who Shan is. She's a sex educator. Yep. She said to me, and when I interviewed her, she said that she thinks that the conversations about virginity should be replaced with conversations about consent, and that way we're actually educating. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I've never forgotten that. And it didn't make it in the goddamn documentary, so I'm saying it now.
Oh, man. Well, if you interview me, I'll talk nothing about cock and anuses, and I feel like that's a conversation that we should have.
Sure.
We don't have enough conversations about anal because everyone's got a booty hole.
Yeah. What's more universal than butt stuff?
Yeah, butt stuff. Exactly. So I'm wondering then, because of that weird stunted background of sex, like what was that like, and how it had affected the first time that you had sex?
Who has sex for the first time and is like, this is great. And like, I was very good at this. Like, show me that person and I will show you a liar or a person whose couch has been ruined. You know what I mean? Those cushions have been used. I don't, I honestly, so once I got to college, I kind of realized that I was holding myself back in this way. And then, and this is a sense that doesn't age well, but I was a break dancer. And I used to be a break dancer and a hip hop dancer, and I got hurt in my freshman year of college, and I ended up separated and dislocating my shoulders. And I went through basically 2 years of rehab, and I never felt like myself. And so sex became this thing that it built up. I wasn't out doing the things that I wanted, interacting with the people that I wanted, and I felt this build up. And eventually, to me, I just wanted sex to be a good story. Like virginity no longer had the power over me it used to over time, but I also didn't want to just fuck somebody. Like it still had more of a power over me than I realized, because to me it had to be a good story. First time it had to be a good story. I literally had to wait till I was in another country,
Oh.
and it's a very funny story, because I was in Australia at a music festival, and I met this whole group of friends, and I met the one girl. She was the only one not doing a lot of drugs, and I wasn't doing any drugs, and she lost her voice, and she just wanted to dance. And for New Year's Eve, we went into the crowd and we danced and we rang in the New Year together. It was this big fun thing, and then the night was going on, and we were drinking and having a good time. In my head, I was like, "This is it, this is it," and we were like shotgunning beers together and just being ridiculous. And I was like, In my head, I was like, "This is the story. This is the story I wanted. This is perfect." And then we go back to her tent, and she just passes out. And then 4 days later, we had sex.
Okay. Great.
The anticlimactic nature of that story, the build up to an anticlimax, to me is the perfect iteration of what virginity is thought to be versus what virginity actually is.
You were edging me there, Justin. You were edging me. I was like waiting for a good payout, but like 4 days later, what?
Hey, I've learned some things in the last 19 years.
Yeah. Wow. Was it good at least? Was it nice for you as it was for her?
It was. I don't think either one of us had the best time. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't have set my stopwatch to it, but it was fine. It was.
It would have been nice if you both like came right at the stroke of New Year, right?
I know.
That would have been the story.
It was like this perfect stupid story. It was like a shitty '90s rom-com turned into another two people having sex. But I love it. I love it so much that it was a nothing. It built up to be just nothing, just like another day in the life. Because to me, I look back on all of the things that led to that moment. And the way I held myself back and put this thing on a pedestal, and then the fact that it was just a thing that we do, and it's a good thing and a great thing and a wonderful thing. But I don't know. I don't have the right words to explain why I love that story so much, but it makes me laugh.
Sweet. I think you love it because it's like something that holds near and dear to your heart. It's really funny. I mean, like the way you tell it, I was just like, I was waiting for something, and then you were like, nah, 4 days later, fuck. I was like, God damn it. You were like bullshit.
That's how I felt for fucking 21 years, Tim. So get in line. You found it frustrating? You found that build-up frustrating?
True.
This guy over here.
No, I get it. I mean, I lost my virginity in college too. I think I was about 18 or 19 years old. I mean, I was lucky enough that I lost it to a boyfriend, but like, even then it was messy. And I mean messy. I'm gonna spare the listeners the details, but like, shit happens. So I'll leave you all.
First time.
Yeah, my first time, right? Because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Of course.
I still don't know. I'm a sex educator. I still don't know what I was doing. As an escort, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. What the fuck I'm doing right now. So, you are quite funny and you are quite fuckable. I'm wondering then, because of your tour, yeah, there you go. Cheers, bow. Because of your touring and your charisma and your humor, I'm wondering, do you get any chuckle fuckers?
I think I know what that means, but tell me more.
Like, from what I've noticed, it's like, audience members who kind of like get turned on because you're funny, and then they start to like hit on you. You end up hooking up with them after your set. Is that something that you've experienced? Or had the pleasure? Yeah.
I've spent more of the last 7 years in relationships than not. So more of my stand-up career than not has been, I'm unavailable. But it has happened. It's definitely happened. And just being hit on after a show. I was in Finland and I performed at this like weird mansion in the middle of nowhere, and then I had to take like a
Whoa.
public bus back to Helsinki, and this like beautiful girl like literally like followed me onto the bus and sat next to me, and like just the Finns are very sexually progressive. They have, I think they have like one of the highest rates of like one night stands in the world. It's something crazy. There's like a weird statistic about them and their
I'd
sexuality.
love to see that stat.
I know they're very. It's cold, you know. They're all cold and they drink a lot, and they're very educated about sex. So they have very, I think, healthy understandings about sex in general. Anyways, I had a girlfriend that I loved very much, unfortunately, because she was gorgeous. And she was just like, well, here's my number and here's all my information. But there's been I've definitely been, I do this, there's a great queer show every Sunday in New York City called Sunday School. It's run by Ashley Gavin. Do you know Ashley Gavin?
Sundays. No, I know Sunday
She's
School.
a podcast.
Yeah.
Ashley runs a podcast called We're Having Gay Sex, and it's phenomenal.
Yes. Yep.
And Sunday School is a great weekly show. And like, that's why last time I did that show in New York, you know, I talked to more audience members after shows with Ashley than anyone else, because there's just like such a community that comes together. You know, like when she does shows in like St. Louis or like Orlando or where, like this is the first time a lot of these 20-something-year-olds have ever seen 400 queer people in the same room together. So this is like it's like a real celebration. Like, it's really fun. And it's certainly a more flirty atmosphere than the average comedy club. But I'm trying to think if I have any good post-comedy sex stories. I don't have a lot.
Like,
Again, I've been hit on
a
a
pretty
bunch.
girl hit on you, yeah, and then you're like, all right, let's give it a shot.
Sure. Oh, cool. This definitely happened. It's happened I'm just trying to think if it's a good story. I just don't know if there's any stories that are bigger than what you just said. Like, how much more of a story do you want? Do you want me to describe her underwear? Like, what kind of detail you're looking for?
Up to you.
Here's her home address. She lives at
Social
447.
security number.
Yeah.
Go into as much detail or as little detail as you want. I just really am interested in like the concept that when guys are funny, it's like some sort of aphrodisiac, and it's very.
I think that's very true.
It's also very interesting that like female comedians don't really get the same kind of attention. You know, there's a weird imbalance to it.
It's a great point, because it's true in a way. Like, female comedians get bad attention. Like, attractive female comedians get
You're
get
funny
DMs
for a
about,
girl,
like, to smell
you
your
know.
feet. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I dated a female comic for 4 years, and I get hit on, and she'd get stalkers. Like, that was the difference, you know. Like, it is again, this all comes down to me to cultural sex education, and you know, I think there's an incel energy to a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of sad people love comedy more because it brings them joy. And they can find themselves obsessed and attracted to people that they connect with. I've had stalkers who I call her my Snapchat stalker, who for years she'd like come to comedy shows and like sit in the back and then text me about it later and like send me messages on Snapchat and photos and stuff. And it was honestly it was fine until she started bringing up my girlfriend, and then I was literally like, and then she showed up to a comedy show. Yeah, and I was like, and she was never aggressive. It wasn't scary. It was just a lot. And it went on for a long period of time. And then one day she came to a comedy show to try to sit in the back, but it was at a bookstore, so the lights were all on, so I could just see her.
Oh my God.
And I went and I was like, I went to my set, I like walked outside with her, and I was like, so, you're not gonna do anything crazy, right? She was like, whoa, no. I was like, I'm just saying, you keep sending me articles about stalkers who marry the stalkees. Like,
just trying to Stockholm syndrome right into your bedroom, you know?
Totally. I respected it. I respected the effort. You know, game recognized game. You know what I'm saying?
True. You know what? Tail is tail. Whatever you want. Mm-hmm. That's so weird. I don't think I could ever. That's how do you even deal with something like that? You know, that's so uncomfortable. That's
It's
yeah.
yeah, I think well, I don't know. I think I can read people pretty well. It's something that I've spent most
Mm.
of my life trying to do. You know, like I'm an introvert. I grew up with parents who didn't talk to each other, and a brother that I barely spoke to. Like I had to like learn how to communicate with the world. So it was me like a lot of like watching how people
Feel
interacted.
free
I
to
still
dump your
think that's why
purse
I
on
do.
my show, Justin. Just empty your purse out right now.
Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna fuck the purse at the end. It's fine. Um, I know what we're doing here. Don't worry about it. But
Sorry.
I think I've learned how to read people. It took me a long time when it comes to flirting and sexuality, but like I can tell when someone's dangerous or not. And but yeah, it's a weird thing. You just have to have a perspective on it. It's a weird thing. But the point is, people are attracted to funny people. It absolutely is a thing, and I think people are attracted to funny women. I think men are just threatened by funny women. So in the same way that like men are like
Ooh.
on the down low in terms of like they're threatened by people thinking they're gay because it emasculates them, but they like to fuck dudes. It's the same thing. Like they're threatened by women that are stronger willed than them.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. I also noticed kind of like the same dynamic when it comes to like gay comedians and then a gay audience. It does very much go one or the other, where you'll either try to flirt with them or they're going to be like, I'm funnier than you. That wasn't that
Hmm.
great. And it's like, how about we just, I don't know, shut the fuck up, stay in our lane, and like, goddamn, we're all like just dumping our purses on to each other. Like, how about we, I don't know, like say that was
That's what most
great.
heckling is.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like,
Most heckling is just people that are like
boo.
they hear a word or a phrase or a sentiment that they take so personally that if it's bad heckling, like if it's like ill-intentioned heckling,
Yeah.
it's usually just people fucking emptying their purse in the middle of in your job while you're at work. It's
Yeah, which is
weird.
so fucking annoying. It's like you paid for the show. Why are you gonna like ruin your own
Yeah,
experience for you? Have you had a bad
yeah.
heckling experience?
Oh my God, tons. I mean, I have video of one of the most stupidest, longest heckles. You know, this girl heckled me on and off throughout like my entire set. That's online. It's one of my few heckling videos. Um, I don't have a lot online, but I'll post it to my Instagram actually because it's been a while since I posted it anywhere, and I think it's insane. She just keeps coming back, but she has nothing to say because she's like a drunk girl, and the audience hates her. And it's great. It's great when as long as you can turn the audience against them, you'll never
Yeah,
lose. You know what I
and
mean?
you're
It's
with the audience is with you.
with you exactly.
Yeah, they're in on the joke.
But I've had it's tough. It depends who's heck. I was once heckled by like a drunk Irish-looking girl. I think she was American. Doesn't matter. She was indecipherable what she was saying. But it's hard because there's no. I can't. It's how do you talk to someone that can't talk, like who can't finish their sentences? And then there's the punching down element where it's like a woman who's like vulnerable and like, what are you gonna? You can't. What are you gonna? You're just gonna yell at her, make fun of her. There was one. It was the one time I was heckled where I honestly didn't. I didn't have tools in the toolkit to deal with it because I couldn't really punch down and just make fun of her. I wasn't getting any content to riff off of and play with and understand who the hell she was. But there's tons. I mean, I once had a guy reach for a gun because he thought I was calling him gay.
Holy shit!
Um, yeah. So
What the?
it can escalate quickly. Um,
That's
I don't even remember what I
insane.
was saying. Yeah, but this guy stood up and he reached for his belt, and I can't say most of the words he said, but he basically said, "Did you just call me gay?" And I said, "No, but thanks for asking." And because of that response, everybody laughed. And then so we kind of sat down, and then I just did my next joke, and everybody laughed at that joke. And then I turned back to him. I was like, "By the way, that also doesn't mean you're gay." And everybody laughed. And he literally came up to me afterwards and shook my hand. He went from standing up and reaching for his belt to shaking my hand within like a 3 minute span. That's how fucking weird comedy can be.
Yeah, it can do a whole 180 within a split second, and also it's really funny that that heckler thought that being called gay is an insult.
Yes. He
You
was
should have.
there with a lot of
Yeah, you should
A
have
lot
said
of
something like,
dudes.
if I was gay or if you were gay, you're not my type anyway. You know?
I honestly was so shocked because I was most of my. I have no idea what joke. I don't remember what joke I did. I could probably find the recording somewhere, but it was a long time ago. But it was such a shocking response to something that was. I was probably gesturing generically with my hands, I guess, is the only thing I could think of. And maybe he thought I pointed at him while I made a joke about myself. But I don't even know what joke I would have made that would have made him make this huge leap to thinking I was calling him gay. It was very strange. It was some sort of wild miscommunication. But he was there with like 12 of his boys, and there was this urban masculinity thing that was just clearly with a homophobic bent. Or
Yeah,
he did not want to be perceived that way. It's wild.
That's just so weird. God, nothing's more fragile than the male ego, to be
I know.
honest. Oh my god. But
It's,
hey, that could be like your next source of comedy fodder, right? Just like, hey, you look gay? And it's like, what? Huh? What does that mean? Again, more straight impressions. I don't know. I don't interact with straight people. Heteros? I don't even know how to say it.
heteroflexibles. That's what we're. That's heteroflexibles.
That's what you identify as. Okay, because I identify as a piss pig. Come dumb. My pronouns.
Sure,
do you think
sure.
you're gonna be in comedy for the long run?
Oh, it's my first language. You know, how I learned how to talk to the world was through comedy. I went to film school and everything I made was a comedy. It's how I like to communicate. I truly believe that comedy is one of the best ways to get people who don't agree with you to listen to what you have to say because you make them laugh, their guards go down. Whether or not I do stand up forever, I hope I do. I hope I never stop doing it, but it's also a very hard business and a very time consuming business. And it's there's a lot of hustle culture that has to go into
It's
doing
almost
it well.
thankless. Yeah.
It really, other than the 10-minute spots you do in these big cities, and when you tour, you get to do longer sets. But booking tours, unless you're big enough to have representation to book
Yeah.
tours for you,
Get a
it's a lot
Netflix
of work.
special. Yeah.
Yeah, it's until you get to that point where you're it's a lot of hustle, and I love it to death. I hope I never stop doing it, but I try not to put expectations on the future. I try to treat stand up as very much a pure art form for me. Like I make my money producing TV shows. I make money doing stand up, but not pay the bills money, and I don't mind it that way because I want it to be about art. I want it to be about something that I love to do versus me trying to pay off what the world wants from me.
Yeah. I agree. I incorporate a lot of comedy into my sex education because the tagline of the show is making you tee-hee at your pee-pee, right? Like, that's the only way that I feel like I can get people to really engage in like tough sex related conversations because like it's sensitive already, so you might as well just like laugh at your bits because let's be real, a penis looks really ugly. It's so aggressive looking, the way it stares at you with that one eye, like a cyclops snake just going. I think that's what a penis sounds like.
I did. I go to. I'm agreeing with you dramatically. I go to Burning Man. I've been to Burning Man 4 times, and I love it to death. And I once did a naked partner yoga class that a friend of mine ran. And the whole point of it was to to laugh at our bodies, how silly the human body is. And it was so fun. And we did these ridiculous yoga poses. Like she had us start in like Happy Baby, where your feet are up in the air, and she's like, she's just
what,
like,
Happy
I just wanted
Baby?
to see everyone's asshole. Yeah, and it's like that was like the most incredible. It took all the air out of what was like an awkward situation. I was partnered with a girl I barely knew. We're naked doing these poses where our crotches are in each other's faces. Like it was just like really personal, and very not sexual. But she made us laugh within 45 seconds, and it just took all of the anxiety out of the room. Comedy when it comes to things like sex and uncomfortable conversations.
And that's how you met your
deflates
girlfriend.
people's-
Probably not. I saw her asshole before meeting her parents,
I mean, I'd hope so.
Oh man. No, that's really nice, and I love that you were able to laugh at something so like sensitive and like, oh hey, I'm not the only circumcised person here. I'm assuming you are because you said you're Jewish. I think that's how it works.
Incorrect. I thought you could see my foreskin on the mantle in the background. That's what I thought.
Oh
you were
yeah,
responding
it's
to.
kept
But
in a
yes,
jar.
yeah.
It's kept in a jar. It's in formaldehyde. It looks really pretty.
Thank you so much.
So Justin, before we like wrap anything up, and I never wrap anything up, I'm wondering then, like, what is your biggest takeaway this far, turning 40, about sex? What are some things that you value about sex? Just like any thoughts, just general thoughts.
I like sex.
Pro sex. Okay, perfect.
Very pro sex. Listen, I think learning how to communicate about sex and what you want in sex has been one of the best things. And it took me really into my 30s to get competent at this. I won't say good, but be competent. I don't think I'm good at it, but I'm competent. I think having conversations about sex is one of the best ways to better understand yourself and to get to know people. I think when I go on first dates, if there's an opportunity to talk about sex and not us having sex, but sex in general, I love to take it because, again, I think I can have hard conversations with people and make it comfortable. So I do it because you learn so much about people. I think, I don't know, I really enjoy my openness with myself and other people when it comes to sex. Sex is so much more enjoyable because I'm so open about talking about it with partners, with strangers, with podcast sex educators. And I think that's what I would encourage anybody is to find. Yeah, of course.
The way you spread your hole on camera for me, the audience is not going to see it. No.
I don't know why I had to stretch so much before I came here. It's audio, but it's fine.
Wanted to put my whole arm in
I
it.
did.
Oh my god! No,
I think my takeaway
go ahead.
is that I think talking about sex makes sex better. Period. And anybody that feels like they're struggling to understand it, find a way to talk about it. The world is so different from when I was growing up. I had fucking dial-up internet when I was learning about sex. Like, we can talk to each other now.
Man, that traumatic tone. Ding, ding, da, da, na, na, na. Like, oh, man. All right. So, listeners, if you want to take away anything from this conversation, that was just talk about sex. Just fucking, like, don't be so shy about it. Like, let's talk. Even if you're insecure, just be like, "Ooh, I like sex," or "I don't like sex all that much," and then that could be the conversation. But at least it leads to something bigger, better, and more pleasurable for yourself. And I love that. So before we close, Justin, you okay to play just a short, little, tiny, itty bitty game with me before we go? Sweet. So this segment of the show is called Naughty or Nice, and without any context, I want you to pick naughty or nice.
Oh, naughty.
Naughty? Okay. So this segment of Naughty or Nice...
Would you just delete this episode if I pick nice? I feel like anybody that picks nice on this podcast...
I'm going to get you to do both. I'm going to get you to do both. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Because we go both ways here on the show.
Great. Heteroflexible, baby.
Exactly. Shout out to you, your heteroflexibility. So this part of Naughty or Nice is red flags. And what's going to happen is that you're setting me up on a date. And I'm like, but this red flag. So you got to convince me why I should go on this date. So 3 qualities on this date. He can get me for free drinks forever at any bar in the world. Oh, man, that's cool. Best smelling guy in the world. Amazing. But he's going to post all of my texts and my emails online. Why should I go out on this date, Justin? You're setting me up.
It feels like a trap. But
hey,
this is why you should go on this date. You are a man who not to gender you, but you are a person who is so open with their sexuality and so interested in the communications of sexuality, that what better opportunity to show the world the way in which you go on a date and the way in which you flirt than letting this person outside of your control post all of your communiques. It is a testament to your openness as an educator and a communicator.
I will kill myself if I ever see my sex on the New York Times. Oh shit. If I ever see my short little fantasy essay about getting fisted to the high heavens as an op-ed. Oh my god.
Okay, so I didn't know you were sending fisting videos to these communiques. That changes things. It's a different pitch, but that's fine. I can make it work.
All right, perfect. I just wanted to see how that would turn out. Okay, I'll go on this date. Sure, why not? And then the nice portion of Naughty or Nice is like a more wholesome question. I think it's a great way to finish things off. This question says, what does your ideal sexual relationship look like?
What does my ideal sexual relationship look like? Whatever I feel and desire, and whatever my partner feels and desires, is communicated openly without judgment. That's it.
Cute.
I don't think that we all have our fantasies and we all have our things, and and you can, no matter the degree with which you want them or not. I find being able to talk about it is almost as good as anything else. I would rather lose things off of my fantasy bucket list, but be able to talk about it openly in a relationship, a sexual relationship, than not feel like I can discuss how I feel and what I want.
Wow. That's so nice and wholesome. Oh my god. I'm going to puke. No, that's really sweet. My goodness. That
also,
is actually...
butt stuff. Better? Is that better?
There you go. That's it. Just pure raw anal and just full of shit and disgusting piss play, kink, choke, all the disgusting heathen sinner words that you can possibly think of. No, that was actually...
I'm going to go with my first answer.
No, that was really nice. And that was the circle back, right? No, that was really nice. That was really sweet. More earnest than anything I could ever think of, because I'm filthy and disgusting and I don't go to therapy. Or rather, I fail in therapy. All right, so I think that's a great way to end this chaotic-ass episode for all the listeners that made it this far. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. Before I officially sign off, Justin, can you please make like a butthole and plug away anything that you want the audience to find?
Yeah, let me throw a couple beads your way. You can find all my social on justinhermancomedy.com. Instagram is the best way to reach me at Justin_Herman. TikTok, I'm Justin Herman Comedy. And if you can't find me without those plugs, then you need to learn how to use the internet. So that's enough.
All right. Thanks again, Justin, for joining me here on the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. And for all of you listening, thanks for tuning in. I hope you support the show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Give that 5 stars, a like, or whatever it is, because you're supporting queer content, sex ed content. And if you don't support, then you're homophobic. Sorry, I don't make the rules. All right. So with that, I bid you all good night, goodbye, and I will see you at the next one. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Sex Ed with Tim podcast. Sex Ed with Tim is created and produced by me, Tim Lagman. Music is Aces High by Kevin MacLeod. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GaySlutClown and at Sex Ed with Tim. You can also like and follow me on the Sex Ed with Tim Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for all your support, you dirty little slut. Mwah.